Welcome to the High Fae Housewives podcast. I'm Blakely.
And I'm Kylie.
We are currently working towards our Masters in the Maasverse. Our current course is at Crescent City, House of Sky and Breath by Sarah Janet Maas. And today we're chatting chaps 25 through 32.
Warning, while we may be your silly gal pals, we don't recommend listening to this podcast around little ears or ears that may be offended because we say bad words and shitty things. Now relax those shoulders, unclench those jaws, clench that clam, and let's get into it. Part 2. We are already on part 2. The Abyss. Chapter 25. The River Queen summoned Therian, and not for giggling and gossiping. She is not thrilled Therian asked her daughter on a date above water because her daughter is oh so fragile, and that was a poor decision. Just add this to Therian's oops I did it again list because he has made yet another mistake. The River Queen then asks about Sophie's brother. When Therian tells her he's still looking, she reminds him to find a meal before Ophion and any of Valbera's other river courts. So the river courts, I just want everyone to know I did look into it. So there's the Eastros, the Melanthos, the Niveus, and the Rubellus. And they all mean their names. Melanthos means dark or black flower. Niveus meaning snowy or white. Rubellus is reddish or somewhat red. And they all correlate with blue, black, white, and red. Nothing fancy to look into.
But the Melanthos, that feels a little like Melanoy or Melano. So wonder if that's
fine. Was like the Vibe Queen. She smokes menthols.
Yeah, no, I was going with Greek mythology, but she probably does smoke menthols, to be clear.
The Vibe Queen does give menthol gal. Like, not a Marp Smooth, but probably a Newport menthol. Like, that's just the vibe I get. Like, because that's what Ryan smoked. I could see it. Or a Camel Crush. So that way she could, like, choose. I just got way too excited about what kind of cigarettes the Vibe Queen would smoke.
We just really need to rip that Band-Aid off and have a cigarette.
Yuck. The River Queen then starts going in on him about being above oh so much. Why did I add oh? She's kind of a grumpy guppy. To prove to him that the above is shitty, she has him clean up trash in the river by Old Square where he has trash thrown on him from above. Therian decided shit needed to change because there was a power imbalance. We then go to Rune, who went to visit his very hot dad, who was not happy to see him, per usual. Rune asks what's the lore behind the Star Sword and if it has special powers or gifts. Immediately, Daddy thought him knew something had happened. Rune told him it reacted to Reapers by glowing and they ran from it. Omitting a few of the facts, Daddy thought him looked to the various globes and solar system models in his office for a sec. Let's talk about his dad's cool setup and when Rune saw their own solar system and realized everything was sevens. The holy number, 7 planets around a massive star, 7 Asteri, -1 or rest in peace, 7 princes of hell to challenge them, 7 gates in the city through which hell had tried to invade this spring. Once again, we have already stated 7 is the number of choice in the Maasverse. Reminder, in ACOTAR, we have 7 High Lords, 7 territories. There's 7 by 7 years for Tam Tam to beat the curse, the 7-year war. Cass and Azrael have 7 siphons each. 7's consistent throughout the Maasverse.
Sure is. Now, 7 symbolizes completeness, perfection, and divine order across cultures. 7 days of creation in Judeo-Christian tradition. Ancient astronomers identified 7 celestial bodies: Sun, Moon, Mercury, Venus, Mars, Jupiter, and Saturn. In Greek mythology, Apollo and Artemis, the twin god and goddess of the sun and moon, had the number 7 as their sacred number. So as I was researching the number 7, I came across something else in Greek mythology that I found of interest. Now, the hard part is pronouncing this word, so watch me butcher it. Thanks. The Pleiades, yes, the Pleiades.
Whatever it sounds like it's not supposed to be is probably what it is.
Yes. So the Pleiades. So that was 7 divine sisters, daughters of the Titan Atlas and the ocean Pelion, whose names I can't pronounce, but they became a flock of doves, or Pleiades, and were placed in heaven to protect them from the hunter, Orion. who pursued them relentlessly. He was in love with the sister and would not take the hint. They prayed to the gods and they set them in the sky as a cluster of stars. That was the
What
struggle.
that's telling me is one of the 7 princes of hell is in love with Hunt. And
Yes.
that's why they're all seeking Hunt out. Solved.
It's all done.
You guys can close the book now. We're done with Crescent City.
Solved it.
Daddy Thotham then goes on about how it is an ancient sword from another world made from the metal of a fallen star, a meteorite. This sword exists beyond our planet's laws and tries to justify that for the Reaper's reaction. He then sniffed Rune and smelled Bryce on him and was, I don't think thrilled was to hear it, was not thrilled to hear it. He then sniffed Rune and smelled Bryce on him and was not thrilled about that. He tells Rune that if it's acting up to keep it far from Bryce and that once upon a time, Starborn siblings used to 86 each other. Rune sees what he's doing and tells him that pitting them against each other won't work. They bicker some more about Bryce, and Rune says too much when he tells him that there should be limits on his authority and that the Asteri would agree there's limits to his power. He then tells the hottest dad in these books that hopefully the Asteri find a way to make him live forever because he's not interested in that job. So much sexual tension. Not between Rune and his dad, but between me and the Thotham King.
Totally. Like it's actually hard being like recording this when you're talking about the Thotham King. Like, do I just need to give them their own room? Because the sexual tension is high.
I cannot understand my obsession with him. I truly don't know. Like, he's not even a real male, but God, I love him.
And you don't even have like daddy issues. Like that's not your thing. That's mine. But you're the one obsessed with the Thotham.
It makes no sense. I know he's extra hot.
Yeah. Well, I think in this you were probably all hot and bothered because Rune walks in and his dad has his shirt unbuttoned extra so you could see a little chest hair, and his hair was muffled because he was doing it with somebody. So I knew that probably got you going.
You know, he did come from a sexy session, so he was interrupted by his son. That makes sense.
Yeah.
Like, his slutty essence was just wafting
Ye-
off of him. That's
yeah.
horrible. I hate that I said that. I'm so
Seeping
sorry.
through the pages, just seeping.
Nope. I don't like sexy essence seeping through the pages either.
Listen, none of this is good. Just need to throw that out there. But back to the Star Sword, rather than sexiness seeping through pages. The Thotham King says, this sword exists beyond our planet's laws. What comes to mind to you when he says that? In the past,
Nothing immediately.
in the past, when we talked about like existing beyond planet laws and other things that usually goes to time, are you boning?
I'm embarrassed that I like didn't think about that immediately. I'm like, God, I'm an idiot. Cause like literally bobble legs. Bobby Yellow Legs was just talking about this yesterday. Not in my conversation with her, but in the book.
Dear loyal listeners, I would like to apologize for Kylie right now. She's clearly very worked up about the Thotham King, and it's difficult for her to.
I was just thinking legs, like.
And here I was thinking I really set you up with this question for you to sound really smart.
It made it worse. Everyone's like, tune out.
So time is what I was going for and was really trying to tee up for you, but that's where I was going.
But then that happened. Really
That's
solid
chapter
start.
25. Chapter 26.
Let's preface this with this is a lot of information, but we have a lot to say on other chapters.
Yeah, it's just like kind of a lot of action type things and nothing a lot to theorize on, or even like there's no musings coming from us. There's no hot dads. We don't have much to contribute, but I'm going to give you a little summary because it's important, I guess.
Much to I don't have much to contribute to this conversation.
Okay, back at it. Chapter 26. Bryce, Hunt, and Cormac were by the Black Docks, debriefing the whole Reaper debacle. Bryce calls out Cormac for being able to teleport. He's like, yeah, what is your point? He explains how he does it, and Bryce tells him that he's going to teach her how to do it. That's what she said. He's like, sure, no probs. Then he tells her the lore. It was once a gift of the Starborn. I guess we probably
Quick
could.
question.
Yeah.
I almost said fuck, marry, kill Bryce, Hunt, Cormac, but that's not who he meant. Hunt, Cormac, Rune.
Important question. I appreciate this. Fuck, marry, kill, Hunt, Cormac, Rune.
Cormac?
I mean,
Cormac is a hottie too, is what I was trying to say, but I called him Hormac.
from here on out, we will be referring to him as Prince Cormac. Okay? Ooh. I think, fuck, I'm going to marry Hunt, kill Hormac, and fuck Rune? Yes.
I'm gonna marry Rune. I'm gonna fuck Cormac, and I'm gonna 86 Hunt just from previous biases because it's tough. But I just know Cormac's hot too.
He is hot. He definitely is hot. Bryce mentions that she thinks Reapers are full of shit and the Prince of the Pit didn't send them. She isn't sure exactly what she believes, but she wants to get to the bottom of it. They start talking about finding a meal and how Declan Emmett is going to find him. Bryce pulls out her phone and calls the coolest chick on the planet, Jespa Roga. She asks her if she has any death marks laying around. Jespa tells her she has 2, but they won't get to her until tomorrow. Jespa's like, you won't find any traces of Danica there. Bryce is like, what? Jessica goes, I thought you were finally going to start asking questions about her and why she was always poking around the gallery. Hunt will be Bryce's +1 for their romantic getaway to the Bone Quarter. She wants to make sure that they have as much info as possible about the Reapers for their heart-to-heart with Underking. Hunt asks why Jessica brought up Danica, and Bryce says they now need to ask Deck for another favor. Deck and Ethan were doing fancy computer shit. 1, looking for Reaper footage, and 2, checking all the footage for Danica poking around the gallery. Ruin and Bryce have mind-to-mind, heart-to-heart, and Bryce admits to him she isn't sure how much more of this surprise. You have no idea what your best friend was or what she was up to, much like how I feel that you didn't tell me about your winnowing TikTok.
It's hidden.
Mm-hmm. Rune tells her that she loved her, and they go on talking about how Danica never talked to her about the Parthos library, and there's just so much she just does not know. While they combed over the footage, they found the Reaper that threatened them, but he seemed to appear out of nowhere. Bryce wanted to research as much as she could before they met the Underking tomorrow. All done.
You said Hunt and Bryce, like, for the romantic getaway to the Bone Quarter, and like that, the name is so misleading. Nobody's getting boned there.
Not one person.
Sounds like a quarter for orgies, and that's just not happening. Chapter 27. When Hunt appeared, she was like, surprise, surprise, we are going to the meat market, and not your pants this time. Hunt absolutely does not understand why a meal would be in the meat market. He's also curious how they're going to get through the whole market, but our girl has thought of everything and brought Fury and Juniper as backup. I almost said furry, and I was like, she is not that. Everyone had their locations to scout for the next 30 minutes, with Bryce's being closest to the Viper Queen's quarters. When they met back up, no one had found anything. Bryce thinks that since there is no hint of him there, the meat market leads them back to the Bone Quarter and have a conversation with the Underking. Bryce is taking this situation by the balls, really felt personal because Hunt's balls tightened, and your boy was getting hard and would send up a storm if he wasn't careful. They really did go back to her apartment and worked out in the gym and got hot and sweaty. You know what happens when these two are alone? Sexual tension starts building. Bryce ends up giving Hunt an earbud after he was talking shit about her planks and then tells her it's due to her sad sack music. Hunt talks about listening to a book while working out, so sexual tension starts building for everyone reading the book as well. I really do feel like I was like out of the loop on the whole sad sack. You talked about it once upon a time during one of our first few books. Words are so hard. And like, I didn't know it was a thing. And here it is in plain sight, written in Crescent City. And I've heard it in other books now too.
I just don't know how you never heard it. Like, you sad sack. You used to be a sad sack. I used to be a sad sack.
Well, my parents didn't like call me names. They just ignored me.
Oh, yeah, my parents called me names.
Hunt sense that Bryce is turned on, not to be confused with mate sense. So Hunt used his lightning on all the cameras so that they could have some privacy. They start making out, and now Bryce gets some more mate scent going on. And let's talk about it. Just pointing out again, we are almost halfway through this book, and there is a difference between horny scent and mate scent. Horny came first in this scene, and then it says Bryce groaned, tasting apple and that storm-kissed cedar scent that was pure Hunt grinding herself against his demanding hardness. Not necessary to add that last part, but I had to. Once again, I think that they are chosen mates and not true mates. Bryce and Hunt's mate trajectory is unique to them. Not a traditional true mate situation, so what we saw in Crescent City, House of Earth and Blood did not necessarily point to mates. There are mentions of Bryce's scent in House of Earth and Blood, but they are easy to dismiss. When Hunt sends her still lingering on the sidewalk when trying to track her down in the beginning of the book, this can absolutely be a hint of foreshadowing, but dismissed easily because the next time Bryce's scent is specifically described with her lilac and nutmeg is by Rune. And that is her fucking brother. So you can take that with a grain of salt. Hunt again smells Bryce when she snuck out of her building, but easy to dismiss based on the situation with Rune. He mentions the scent of her still lingering in the bed, but not specific notes. And then, like I said in chapter 1, when they got sexual on the couch and she came, but he didn't, she smelled him finally. Rain, cedar, salt, and pure lightning. But that was the only time for Bryce. And she did say the sheet smelled of him, but no specific notes again, like a mate situation. But then in chapter 94 of House of Earth and Blood, Bryce is coming up for her ascent. Hunt's power felt it coming, that's what she said, a moment later, recognized her like seeing itself in a mirror. At that moment, Bryce decided to make the ascent and survived it. Her path was her own, and the bond was beginning. But with the whole room pointing out the note specific to Bryce's scent too, Hunt can easily be seen as a like Tamlin situation or like a Kale situation until we see the relationship progression in House of Sky and Breath, which is the book we are currently deep diving. So to recap so far, in chapter 1, I pointed out Bryce had developed a keen awareness of Hunt's presence, like scenting lightning on the wind. He had only to enter her room and she would know if he was there by that surge of power in her body. Like her magic, her very blood answered to his, noticing his presence, the only scent note being lightning. In chapter 12, it's his presence Bryce felt. In chapter 13, it's admitted how territorial Hunt is getting, so his actions are changing. In chapter 15, Bryce felt his presence. In chapter 17, it's only horny scents. But so far, it has been mostly feeling his power. Once again, though, getting that scent mention of him here, it is triggered by a sexual moment. But they don't have actual intercourse, so it's almost like their magic saying, smell that, do the full deed, and it'll snap into place. But of course they don't. They just get a glimpse of notes, but nothing is snapping into place fully yet. Mate pressure is building between them, though.
Yes. And you just kept on mentioning she's sensing his power, which once again goes to our point of them being Karanom already, but not quite chosen mate. I mean, they're choosing mates, but not fated mates, chosen mates. And wow, that was so fun to watch you because you were she had someone, a Brunt fan, come after her. And it was like watching Legally Blonde right now, you making your case. And I'm just like, you go, Glen Coco. Like, you got this.
Well, the person that came after me didn't even read what I had said or listened to what I had said. And it's just like, I'm not saying that they're not mates. I'm just saying that they're chosen and their trajectory was different. And like, yes, she smells him, but once again, it's only during intercourse. And it's easy to be dismissed in the first book, but obviously they end up being mates literally in this chapter, and I will get into that as well.
Yeah.
So they continue to make out. He goes down on her and does such a great job at it that Bryce says, I love you. She does love him, but she came so hard she had no control. Those words made Hunt dive right back in with his tongue, and she came so hard. She arced clean off the counter, fingers scrabbling in his hair, pulling hard. She was flaring with light inside and out like a living beacon. She could have sworn they fell through time and space. Could have sworn they tumbled towards something, but she wanted to stay here with him in this body and this place. And then the orgasm calmed down, and he told her he loved her too. I thought it was a really important, scene to include.
Well, I think it is because it felt like they were going through time and space. And that, I think, is some mate shit snapping into place.
Bryce was a world walker, absolutely. And it's like her power is waking up there to know that she can move between worlds, but she's like, no, I want to stay here with Hunt. Like, it was literally an option right there to just go between worlds.
And obviously later in the book, when they do fuck, she winnows. So she's definitely a world walker, as we know, but I think we're right. It's just a little glimpse of it, and it's their mating bond snapping into place. Getting there anyways.
At some point, they were polite enough to leave the fucking gym and head back to the apartment. Hunt and Bryce were laying in bed with Rune, Declan, and Ethan in the other room. They talk about the big bomb Bryce dropped. She let him know she meant it, and that she has never said it to anyone romantically. He tells her how Sandy tortured him with their photos when he was in the cell under the comitium, and that's how he knew. She then tells him it was when he snooped for her dildos, but wound up handling Jelly Jubilee with care. They then talk about labels and that the Umbra Mortis as a boyfriend is weird. Hunt brings up mates, so Bryce shares that mates are an intense thing for the Fae. It's a lifetime commitment, something sworn between bodies and hearts and souls. It's a binding between beings. You say I'm your mate in front of any Fae, and it'll mean something big to them. Hunt was like, we don't mean something big like that. And Bryce tells him, you mean everything to me. But if we tell Rune that we're mates, we're as good as married. To the Fae, we're bound on a biological, molecular level. There's no undoing it. She shares that some Fae claim they know their mates from the moment they meet them, that there's some kind of invisible link between them, a scent or soul bond. They agree on the term mates, and then Hunt says, I feel like it fits, like we're already bound on that biological level. To which Bryce replies, me too. And who knows, maybe we're already mates. Bryce's star then lit up, and they agreed to get a hotel tomorrow to fuck. I think this moment here, the acknowledgement is really significant for them. They truly spoke about being mates into existence, and they decided it was their path then and there. And then they just haven't locked and loaded it into place. But her star lighting up was like, yes.
Mm-hmm. Agreed. Chapter 28. Rowan and Daybright have a little mind-to-mind date. They figure out that they no longer need the crystal to communicate. She passes along the intel that the hit on the spine is a go, and the shipment is 3 days from now, and it leaves from the Eternal City at 6 a.m. No plane stops, no refueling. They'll travel swiftly northward all the way to Forvos. There will be a mech suit prototype on the train, and the Imperial transport is moving 50 crates of brimstone missiles to the northern front, along with 112 crates of guns and hundreds of crates of ammunition. Ruin asks if she's going to stage a heist. She's like, nay, that's all Ophion, but they should destroy it all, though they will get caught. The brimstone missiles, these guys, Asteri's expecting big things over there. Who are they expecting to show up? Probably hell. Rune wants to know if Pippa will be there, and Daybreak starts getting suspicious when he asks a follow-up question if she knows where she is right now. He says he has no interest in her and then changes the subject, asking if there will be armed guards. She tells him what to expect. Rune tells her none of this bugs him because he has been in the Ox for a while, which she then is like, you noob, and tells him that the rebels must have something on him for him to risk his position doing this. They get in a little tiff. She accuses him of being a loose cannon, and he's like, fuck off. And Rune presses her about Sophie, and she isn't having it and tells him the meeting is over. So they talk about Rune's poor scars on his arm from your dearly beloved Daddy Thought him. What do you think that he was doing to poor Rune? What was he trying to figure out?
I think he wants to know how that prism works, because we know that Rune would give him his starlight for
Right.
it. So I wonder how he had to have used his orrery
Mm-hmm.
somehow, like trying to use his star power, and it
On the
somehow ended up
prison.
burning it.
Yeah.
That's how, I mean, we know that the daddy thought him has firepower as well. And I don't doubt that he did abuse him in that way as well. But I think some of those burns, because he's fey and scarred, are
Mm-hmm.
from the prism. But I don't think we'll ever learn.
I want you understand him best out of anybody. Like you get, you really understand Bottom. So I thought you would have the best insight on it.
Look, he has made mistakes. He's
Yeah.
had those days.
I set myself up for that one. Hunt is puzzled as to why the Steri created their own mech suit for this war. Hunt is like, you sure this info's real? Cormac is certain Daybright is not a double agent. Rune and Cormac say they're going together and it's triggering the fuck out of Hunt. Bryce tries to remind him it's not their business and it's Ophian's problem to deal with. She tells Cormac to leave them out of it. He isn't impressed with their sense because obviously some mingling has gone down. The two groups went on their merry way, Rune, Cormac, and now Ethan to go do rebel shit, and Bryce and Hunt go into the Bone Quarter.
Chapter 29. A path of mist opened up for them just as easily as Bryce would open her legs for Hunt. She brought the Star Sword with her since Rune left it for her. Bryce got out the smelly death marks out of her pocket and threw them into the fog-veiled water when they had a surprise guest, Baxian. He asked Hunt if Celestina knew about this adventure, but Hunt tells him it's his day off. Baxian asks who they're going to see, and Bryce cheerfully shares the Underking. He's telling them that they're dummies when their boat arrives, and so they headed to the Bone Quarter. Hunt, the Umbra Mortis himself, had the heebie-jeebies. They arrive at the crumbling steps below an archway made of carved ancient bone, brown with H-spots with memento mori written on it. Just going back to the holy number 7, there are 7 steps up this archway. Everything in the Bone Quarter looked like life was being sucked from it, which isn't the kind of sucking anyone is interested in here. Bryce is confused because this is not the green meadows that she was shown. They looked around for any hint of Emil or Sophie, but no dice. Bryce paused at the 2 black obelisks and hit them with her sword as if it were a dinner bell. It worked, though, and the Underking answered. Because we are an educational podcast, the obelisk, which rose from the Greek word for a pointed pillar, stands as a tall, slender monument, often crowned with a pyramid-like top. It originated in ancient Egypt over 3,000 years ago. Various cultures revered these monolithic structures as an homage to sun-associated deities. But back to the Bone Quarter, marble and granite obelisks rose like thick spears, many inscribed, but not with names, just with strange symbols, grave markers, or something else. And it sounds like the graves are marked with word marks. A big question of why. Are they ancient graves or are they keeping something in?
Yeah, I immediately thought word marks too. And like you said, the question is why? Cain used word marks to open a portal and summon the Ritterak. They were on the sunken temple in the stone marshes with the witch mirror, just to name a couple times they're used. So why? Does the Underking use them to summon an evil monster?
We have to think about when Selena and Dorian were under the library as
Mhm.
well, and they stopped that monster from coming out. So I wonder if there's something similar because, what if he traps them if they do
Right.
escape and, sucks life out of them? But who's to say? When the Underking spoke, he told Bryce the land was closed to her and asked why she brought Orion Athlar. Everyone loves using his government name except for him. Bryce tells him that she wants to have a conversation about the Reapers grabbing Rune and how they claim to be sent by Apollyon. The Underking did not like it and told her not to speak that name on this side of the rift. Bryce asked why he attacked, and he said he did not and does not like being called a liar. We then learn Reapers initially defected from Hell. They initially ruled the Vamps but chose Midgard. He then tells her that they could come from another realm. Bryce then tells him that she's looking for 2 people, but he lets her know that there are no living beings other than them. Bryce asked where the pack of devils was, but the Underking said she couldn't talk to them. She asked about Lahaba, but he didn't know that name and said the lowers are of no use. Hunt asked about that no use part, and the Underking just smiled. Bryce asked about Danica, and the Underking reminds Bryce Danica traded her soul for Bryce. He then tells her how he feeds upon the souls of the dead. And since Bryce did not give her power to the illusion system because she made the drop outside of it, she still has first light, and the Underking would like to take a bite. They learn the sleeping city is a lie and that he doesn't plan on letting them leave alive.
Dun, dun, dun.
Underking Community College. I want to start a conversation about the Underking because I have a lot to say. I say start the conversation because I'm not giving it all today. So first, it says his voice was simultaneously ancient and youthful, but cold and dry. The sound came from behind them. The surreal's voice was described as at once and many, old and young, beautiful and grotesque. My bowels turned watery. Very important to leave that last sentence in.
Mhm.
The old and young, ancient and youthful are very similar between their voices. Next, we have the description of the Underking. He has a lipless mouth and a revealed teeth brown with age. The surreal is described as a face that looked like it had been crafted from dried, weather-worn bone. Its skin either forgotten or discarded. The lipless mouth and two long teeth held by blackened gums. So similar with the lipless mouth. Next, we go back to describing the Underking. He stood at least 10 feet tall, robes of the richest black velvet draping to the gravel. Darkness swirled on the ground before him, and his head, something primal in him, just screamed to run, to bow, to fall on his knees and beg. Once again, similar to the surreal and Pharaoh's first encounter. Run, some primal, intrinsically human part of me whispered, begged, run and never look back. So they instilled the same type of fear.
Next up, we have the Underking is described as a desiccated corpse, half rotted and crowned with gold and jewels. Observe them. Hideous beyond belief, yet regal, like a long dead king of old left to rot in some barrow who had emerged to make himself a master of this land. Which immediately made me start scanning my brain because in Throne of Glass there were barrows. So in Air of Fire, it says, not hills, barrows, the ancient tombs of lords and princes long dead rolling to the edge of the trees. There were dozens, each marked with a throne threshold as a sealed iron door. The grassy mounds seemed to breathe, to sleep, iron doors to keep the whites inside, locked with the treasures they'd stolen. They'd infiltrated the barrows and lurked there for eons, feeding on whatever unwitting fools dared seek the gold within. While Aelin is walking through it, she says the hills parted to reveal an inner circle of dead grass around the most crumbling barrow of all. Where the others were rounded, this one looked as if some ancient god had stepped on it. The iron door was gone. Then, later in the series, a lead asks what a barrow-wight is, and Lorcan says the creatures of malice and thought. They covet gold and treasure and infested the ancient tombs of kings and queens so they might dwell amongst it. They hate the light of any kind, so if the Underking was a barrow-wight who merged to this land, I'd say it would be quite the upgrade to make himself the master of these lands from going from stealing jewels and such to Second Life.
I have so many thoughts on that, but I'm going to save that for another day. So many thoughts. So then we have the Underking's milky, lidless eyes. They slid to the Star Sword in Bryce's hand. And the only other creature in the Maasverse who had milky eyes, you guessed it, the Surreal, who had slitted holes for nostrils and eyes that were nothing more than swirling pits of milky white, the white of death, the white of sickness, the white of clean-picked corpses. I don't think that the Underking and the Surreal are one, but they definitely hail from the same world, knowing that the Surreal is older than Prithian and the bones of that world. The Underking says, I hail from a place between stars, a place that has no name and never shall. But I know the void, capital V, that the princes of hell worship. It birthed me too. This is very similar to how Nesta described the cauldron in the prologue of the Court of Silver Flames. The black water nipping at her thrashing hills was freezing. Not the bite of the winter chill or even the burn of solid ice, but something colder, deeper. The cold of the gaps between stars. The cold of a world before light. The cold of hell. True hell, she realized as she bucked against the strong hands trying to shove her into the cauldron. Could this void also be the place of Hellas? Hellas is from Throne of Glass. Our dearest Lorcan's magic is death given by Hellas himself. Hellas is the OG god of death from hell. Hellas lives in the underworld and rules it with an iron grip. So Hellas has these mentions in Throne of Glass. Face cold as death and cooler than any level of Hellas' realm. Worse than the searing heat of the fire lance is worse than any level of Hellas' burning realm. Which brings me to any level, as in, does the planet have levels that Hellas could be daddy to the princess? Princes, not the princess. Could Hellas be the land of the gods and where the princes reside too? If there are different levels in the realm, who knows? And I'm going to mention why I think the gods are dark too in just a moment. I feel like Hellas is a creator of some sort akin to the void that Blakely talked about in chapter 21. But do you know what else Hellas is? While the rest of the world calls it Greece, Greeks refer to their country as Alata or Hellas. Greece, where all of our mythology seems to come from, the land of the gods, and where a lot of these beings, the Underking, the Bone Carver, the Surreal, Bryaxis, Striga, Koshé, come from as well. All this sparked from the Underking and how he looks. And is this like where he hails from? Is the whole point of this?
On to something.
I'm going to also point out the Underking said, the rituals were all invented by you, your ancestors, to endure the horror of the offering. And I want to know, is the wild hunt that is mentioned in A Court of Silver Flames what the offering is in Lunathion? Lanthus, the Death Lord in the prison, talked about the hunt to Nesta, so she asked Reese about it. Reese opened a book of legends from a shelf, no name, revealing an image of a group of tall, strange-looking beings with crowns atop their head. Then Reese shares that the Fae were not the first masters of this world. According to our oldest legends, most now forgotten, we were created by beings who were near gods and monsters, the Daglin. They ruled for millennia and enslaved us and the humans. They were petty and cruel and drank the magic of the land like wine. The Daglin delighted in terrorizing the Fae and humans under their control. The Wild Hunt was a way to keep all of us in line. They'd gather a host of their fiercest, most merciless warriors and grant them free rein to kill as they pleased. The Daglin possessed mighty monstrous beasts, hounds they called them. Though they didn't look like the hounds we know, they used to run prey to the ground before they tortured and killed them. It's a terrible history, and much of it might be elaborated myths. The Daglin drank the land like fine wine and terrorized the human and the Fae. Going back to what the Underking said, the rituals were all invented by you, your ancestors, to endure the horror of the offering. And it seems like the Asteri found a way to harvest powers without having to torment people like the Daglin did.
100%. This would be an easier way for people not to rebel against them because it doesn't seem like it's bad compared to, like, obviously tormenting them like they did in Prythian.
Right. We also need to discuss gods for a moment. The Underking had made a comment, I swear upon Chthonia's dark crown that no living beings other than yourselves are currently on this island. The Sun Priest worshipped Solus, and who was his lover? Chthona. Chthonia's derived from Chthonic. I think Chthona and Solus are tied to the underworld, aka hell. There are a ton of obelisks, which I said earlier. Various cultures revered these monolithic structures as an homage to sun-associated deities.
So when I was behind when we were prepping for this book, then Kylie read it before I did, and I called her immediately when I read this line because Chthona being referred to as having a dark crown really got the Peter Tangle going off, right? Because like Kai said, Chthona is considered to preside, or Chthona is considered to preside over mother goddess things. People pray to her for strength, and her priestesses wear black robes, which now with the dark crown comment, it really makes us think about who she truly is. Similarly, like Kai had mentioned, chthonic is an adjective meaning subterranean or related to the underworld. So Kai's 100% on the money. It also reminds me of ACOTAR when the Naga talk about the Dark Mother. I brought this up in an episode recently. Once again, we believe that gods are able to be in multiple worlds at once. Like when Elena says Deanna is a god, she does not have rules and morals and codes the way we do. Time does not exist for her the way it does for us. So Chthona having a dark crown and being a dark goddess of Hellas definitely makes sense that she could be in multiple worlds, and our eyes are on you, Chthona.
I don't think the gods are who we think they are, or who the people in our stories think they are, because we don't live there.
No. It's almost like they rebrand in every world to try to be like, ooh,
They're
this
like,
will,
let's try this on.
yeah.
They're throwing shit out the wall and seeing what sticks.
Chapter 30. Cormac, Rune, and Ethan were off doing rebel-ish, and it seems like Ephraim has arrived and brought his crew with a shit ton of dreadwolves. Cormac was told by his contact that they believe the Steri is searching for a meal, and that's why the Hind and the dreadwolves are here. As they are discussing that dreadwolves aren't real wolves, they're demon wolves, and Ethan is not a fan. They see Mordok sniffing around, and they all start chatting if he knows their scent. Which then Ethan drops the bomb. He has met him before because he is Danica's dear old dad, and she wanted nothing to do with him. With that info, they knew that they had to get out of there. Cormac took Ethan first and teleported him out of there, but Mordok smelled Rune and let him know, and then Cormac appeared again and got Rune out of there. So, Crescent City Community College, Bloodhounds, and the Maasverse. So we know of 2 Bloodhounds in Crescent City, Danica and her biodad Mordok, which, P.S., anytime I read Mordok, I immediately think Ja Rule saying Murder Inc., and I don't know why. Like, because I don't. Murder. It's so stupid, but that is 100% what I think. Now, in Throne of Glass, we have a bloodhound. When Manon is in the forest, a young woman who is naked says, "The Dark King calls me his bloodhound," and then attacks her and seemingly shapeshifts. Then later impersonates Fenris and seemed to have some longing in her voice when she saw Lysandra and said, "Shapeshifter." So that was probably her first form before Erewhon mutilated her. Now, in ACOTAR, in A Court of Mist and Fury, Feyre refers to herself as a bloodhound. If we're lucky, none of them would realize that Rhys's lapdog was actually a bloodhound. Now, on first glance, it makes sense because of her connection with being made. She would be the one who'd be able to detect where the book is in the Summer Court. But then you start thinking it could be a coincidence. But she's also was the only one who put together that Helion is Lucian's actual father. So maybe with some of the powers perhaps that she got from Tamlin as a shapeshifter, maybe he also had bloodhound capabilities, which makes that question he asked Feyre, "Didn't your mother tell you about us?" even more curious.
I love not reading the things that you write, so it's just like, surprise. Because damn, that is such a good point that Feyre herself is a bloodhound, essentially.
Right, and especially because she's gotten the power from all these different people, she would maybe be able to sense who's related and then add the Tamlin portion in, who is a shapeshifter. And just that question of "Didn't your mother tell you about us?" which goes on in the Maasverse of us all looking at, it seems a little bit more suspicious now.
I don't trust their mom.
No, absolutely not.
What if her mom was like a god that just wanted a quiet life?
A rich, quiet life. She loved.
Yeah.
She loved to party.
I mean, she just wanted a life of not being a god and in charge of anyone. I mean, she didn't do a good job mothering her kids, so she didn't want to be in charge of them either.
No, since I just watched the Martha Stewart documentary and how she's like was cold to her child, I was like, but loves to party. I'm like, maybe her mom's Martha Stewart.
I'm only going to picture the Archeron mom as Martha Stewart now.
You're welcome. You're welcome. Back at the Bone Quarter, shit is getting real as the Underking introduces his shepherd, a 10-foot tall black dog with huge ass chompers and milky white eyes that need correctional lenses. The UK, as I like to call him, tells him that he was an experiment of the Prince of the Ravine from the first wars that he abandoned. and the Underking made him his faithful companion and helper of herding all the souls that don't want to make their final offering. Bryce yells at Hunt to roast the fucker like a hot dog. That seemed important to write in there. The UK pieced out, and the shepherd's head split apart and turned into a three-headed dog. They took off running, and Bryce ran into the crystal gate, and her star sword flew out of her hand.
The first time reading this, I thought of Bloodhounds from Throne of Glass because the dog is being described specifically. The dog's fur, sleek and iridescent enough that it almost resembled scales, flowy over bulky bunched muscle, claws like razor blades. In Throne of Glass, the Bloodhound had iridescent veins running through its obsidian skin. It's like the Prince of the Ravine saw them and was like, I can do better.
Which brings us to Cerberus Community College time. So a three-headed dog in mythology was known as Cerberus, the Hound of Hades, a multi-headed dog that guarded the gates of the underworld, ensuring the dead cannot escape and the living cannot enter. It was said to be the offspring of monster Typhon and Echidna. He possesses a formidable powers, including a venomous bite, a serpent tail, and a mane of snakes. The heads are sometimes interpreted as representing the past, present, and future, or birth, young, and old. Now, only a few have defeated him. One was Orpheus with his music, and if your brain is like, wait a minute, like Fluffy from Harry Potter, you are in fact correct. Now, with his monster parents, this makes him a sibling to other beasts like Hydra, Chimera, and something else that I did not write correctly.
What if the Prince of the Ravine did not accidentally forget this dog and he left it there as an eye into this world?
Ooh. Or 3 eyes, or 4. 6. I can do math.
Chapter 31. Rune was having a little drink to take the edge off the fact that nope, that's not. That Mordock knew his scent now. They were at a bar as an alibi for the alley incident with Mordock. No special names.
No, when you did that, it was giving Crow the Warrior King. Mordock.
I really don't know what I was going for there. I was trying to do Murda, but it didn't come out. It's unfortunate for me.
Oh, good times. Keep going.
At the bar, Rune asked Ethan to move in, really taking their relationship to the next level. Ethan was like, ugh, why? But Rune is like, you're a cool guy. Why not? Really handing him a letter of acceptance to being one of Rune's besties. It's pretty serious, so he says he will think about it when the Harpy and the Hind sat down to play cards with them. When I picture them playing cards, I'm picturing them play Old Maid or Go Fish, nothing super intense because that would just be too much. They're not playing poker at a bar.
Or Uno.
It's not a casino.
Uno's too intense too. It's got to be Old Maid or Crazy Eights.
Yeah, it's 10. It's 11 o'clock in the morning. You can't just dive right in. You got to warm up with some Old Maid. Normally, Hunt is a pretty confident guy, but his opponent was a demon from hell. The dog sang Spice Girls 2 Become One and combined again and raced off after Bryce. Bryce crouched beside the dead gate with the Hound and 24 Reapers floating around her, chanting and awakening the gate. Bryce, I'm picturing them light as a feather, stiff as a board, that kind of. Bryce dove for the Star Sword, which was laying on the ground, and got scratched on her back by the not friendly dog. Bryce went to roar, but then someone else did. It was Hunt. He landed beside her so hard that the earth shuddered. Thank God for Thur raising a hammer to the sky earlier in the book. It inspired Bryce to leap in front of Hunt as he unleashed his lightning and had his lightning hit the Star Sword.
I'm sorry, but Hunt just landed so hard the earth shuddered. I'm like, look at him go, giving orgasms left and right.
I know. I was like, well, good for them. That's so lucky. Since that verbal agreement in chapter 27, it's all happening now. Hunt is an intense alcohol protector here because they have acknowledged their mate status. The power rolling off him sent Bryce's hair floating upward. Primal rage poured from Hunt as he faced down the shepherd and the Reapers. That is how intense their mate bond is. She was able to unlock the most intense part of him. Hunt was the heart of a storm personified. The lining around him turned blue, like the hottest part of a flame. Blue's interesting.
Mm-hmm. I told you, blue always makes me feel like Hades from Disney, that version. And I was just really happy that we got Thur raising a hammer to the sky, which means my art school I gave you in the beginning of the series was not for naught. You know, like, there you go, guys. Here it is.
It stuck with me, so I was able to use it in this. So thanks, Blake. Thank you for that lesson.
You're welcome. Chapter 32. Bryce leapt in front of his power. Her light flashed. Power crackled from every inch of her and the star sword. She struck it with its sword. Lightning exploded across the beast's body. The other two screamed, and then the Reapers retreated into the mist beyond. Bryce tried yelling for Hunt to watch out, but the beast snapped its tail at Hunt, getting him right in the kisser and hurled him into the dead gate. He hit the stone, and his power started fizzling out. While Bryce was holding her own, Hunt slammed his hand against the gate, siphoning the power, and then shot a bolt of his power into her like a conduit. The shepherd fled. Bryce ran after it, and Hunt was right behind, and they flew, and right when they were above the beast's back, they drove the sword into the shepherd, and then he headed towards the river.
Honestly, I need us to be more dramatic when we read things because I was really into it.
Were you riveted? Good. This isn't riveting, what I'm about to read, so let's go back to normal voice. Therian and the River Queen had their powwow discussing his investigation to find Emil Vernast. By the look of the killings, it seems like Pippa was behind them. Therian asked why she wanted the boy, and she didn't like that. He apologized and then headed to see what was going on with the lightning flashing off in the distance.
Poor Therian can do no right. Like, he can't find Emil. Every time I see Emil, I think of Night at the Roxbury, and I was like, Emilio! No?
No, well, I picture a fat rat from a Ratatouille, so it's a little different.
Yeah, but yeah, Therian can do no fucking right.
Why do we give such a pass for Therian being a fuck up compared to Ethan?
Well, Ethan's annoying, and
Yeah.
Therian is like, he's a suave guy.
Yeah, he's got BDE, and Ethan doesn't. That's a difference.
We don't know if it's BDE because we don't know his wiener situation because he's a mermaid.
I know, we still haven't figured it out. And I'm nervous to Google it.
Nobody has helped us either.
No. Well, I think there was a comment telling us to read a book, but I'm not going to read a whole book knowing how to figure out how mermaids have sex. So, considering both of our search histories, you're the one that this feels more in line to looking up. I don't want it on mine. The FBI is already on your tail. So, just with all the weird things you look up, they're like, oh, Kylie's looking up.
Literally, I was Googling how to get a sword yesterday.
Exactly. Because we're talking about Therian, who's obviously a hottie. But then, we grew up with a hottie mermaid. Like, King Triton was a fucking zaddy among zaddies. I mean,
Still is. Still is. My
100%.
favorite part of the Little Mermaid ride is when it's King Triton.
And I wave at him. I'm 36 years old, and I'm waving because he's so hot. I'm like, hi, babe.
I'm like, yeah. I'm a kid. I'm like, wave. But it's just me.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. He's fucking hot. Hunt and Bryce could barely stand, absolutely exhausted. Therian pulled up so the two could get on his super sweet wave skimmer. As they're pulling away, Sobek showed up, ready to do some damage, but Therian killed the shifty fuckers. They got back to the apartment and were instantly worried that Ethan and Rune weren't back. And that's just how it ends. So that's all I got.
And that's just how it is. That's the way the cookie crumbles.
It truly, sorry guys.
Not much to theorize on there.
No, but we did some important things this chapter. We talked about mermaids fucking again. We brought up King Triton, and he just deserves a moment for how hot he is. I mean, there are some hotties.
Is there
now.
any other famous mermaids that you can think of? Besides, like, Ariel, male-wise, because we have Triton,
males. Okay.
we have Therian. How can we do a proper fuck, marry, kill without a third merm? Merm? That's not the word.
But like a merm, I want a hot merm.
I don't believe that. I want to see that merworm.
You dirty dog.
Not a dirty mermaid.
You're a dirty merm, actually. That's what I call you. I hate myself. No, I don't have a third. All right. If you've listened this far and you're still listening to us after we're talking about mermaids having sex, we need a third merman. We got Therian, King Triton. We need another one.
We need a solid third.
Mm-hmm.
But don't give us any of those like sequel bullshit. Like give us a main character, true main character of the mermaid.
We need it. Thanks, guys.
That's an important distinction.
Mm-hmm. So thanks for chuckling through our journey with us today. We have new episodes every Tuesday. Join us next week as we get into chapters 33 through 40 of Crescent City, House of Sky and Breath.
Make sure you follow us on social media for all of our latest updates, theories, and more new book goofing. Don't forget to hit subscribe and give us a review wherever you listen. All links are in our info, you giggling gal pals.
I'm waving like I'm waving to fucking Daddy Triton.